matter what goes, if you're on a high, if you're in a low, if you're getting sick, if you're feeling well, if you're getting up, if you just fell, God's love and faithfulness will always be the same. Some things never change.
Here's Larry Powell.
Hey, welcome to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. This is KXEX 1550 AM, and you can hear Powell to the People Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. We talk politics, education, religion, technology, sports, values, and healthy communities. And also you can catch Good News with Larry Powell, nothing but good news stories, Monday through Friday, 10 and 4 o'clock. You can catch us on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. We got it. You listen when you want to. That's why we do it this way. We're so glad that you're with us today and just looking forward to a great time together. And I have a very special guest today, a longtime friend who is often confused as me, and I'm confused as him. And we're kind of brothers, you know.
And I'm thankful for that, and you're sorry for that.
I have with me Pastor Jim Franklin from Cornerstone, good friend. We've done a lot of things together over the years, and since you've been in California.
I'm trying to think when we first connected. It would no doubt have been during your school years.
Yeah. It was probably 2006, 2005, right around there. I became county superintendent. I had been superintendent in Central. But I know we had connected on a pretty solid basis then, but we had known each other a little bit before then. You've been here, 25 years?
30 years.
30 years now?
It'll be 30 years in November.
Wow, 30 years.
Can you believe
You're
it? I was 6 years old when I came.
I hear you.
You feel that, don't you?
Let me tell you, I tell people that what doesn't hurt doesn't work as you get older.
It lets you know that you're alive.
It really does. But, truly, folks, we've had some fun. I was at both of us were at a dinner, a fundraising dinner or something, and some lady came up to me and just started thanking me. Man, your messages are so good, and just telling me all kinds of things. And then you said, "It's so nice to see you, Jim." So I said, "Let me come with me."
And what was so funny, I was sitting at the same table across the table from you.
Isn't that funny? I know.
You look more like me than I do.
So we had some fun.
Yeah.
And we've had that a number of times.
Several, and I've had people that have approached me. I remember one time I was walking down the street in Clovis, and a guy stopped me and started talking about a project at the schools back when you were still in the school, and we've got to get this. And I said, excuse me, I think you've got me mistaken for Larry Powell.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty funny, though.
He said, and then of course he said, "Well, I thought you'd get a lot younger looking, Larry." And I know that.
Oh, yeah, really. I'll tell you what, age catches up with us all, doesn't it? So much. Well, Jim, one of the things I like to do with my guests is talk a little bit about where'd you grow up? Now, obviously, I know you're from Oklahoma, and my grandpa's from Oklahoma, grandma's from Arkansas, mom's from Missouri, my wife's from Kentucky, dad's from California, but everybody else is just strewn right across the state. And the joke for us as Okies was that the family ran out of gas on the Grapevine, and some of them coasted to Wasco. The rest of us made it to Sanger.
Made it all the way to Sanger. Well, I share that with you. My dad is from Arkansas, and my mom from Oklahoma.
Okay, cool.
And so I was born in a little town called Salisaw. Now, if you watch the movie Grapes of Wrath,
yes, that's
where the Dodd family started from.
Is that
so
right?
You'll see at the very beginning of the movie when they're leaving,
yeah,
you'll see the Salisaw sign there where they come through it.
How cool!
Matter of fact, they talk about being from. Now my mind just went blank because I'm around old people and that happens.
Yeah, really.
But the little community that they were from is just right outside of Salisaw.
Okay.
Salisaw was the big city, which was about 8,000.
Yeah, I love it.
But anyway, that's where I'm from. That's the home area of Sequoia, the Cherokee Nation that created the Sequoia or the Cherokee alphabet.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm Cherokee Indian, so I'm a card-carrying member of the tribe.
I love it.
But grew up there in northeastern Oklahoma. It's over there in green country, the beautiful part.
The beautiful part.
Where the Ozarks spill over into Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
So that's where I grew up and stayed there until basically around 19 years of age. I'd gone to college at Northeastern State University there in Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Then got a call to the ministry. Then went to Waxahachie, Texas.
Waxahachie. I
Went
love
to Bible college there.
those names of those towns, you know.
And from there, started ministry. Met my wife. We got married, and so never went back to Salisaw after that.
Yeah. Tell me about your dad and mom. What was it like growing up in your household?
So my folks were entrepreneurs. Now, Dad was an electrician by trade.
Okay.
When electricity came into the Cookson Hills there, as a young man, he was on a lineman's crew.
Wow.
When it came into rural Oklahoma.
Sure.
So he
Which
helped.
they had not had.
They hadn't had it. So he helped put the lines in.
Wow.
And so he was staying at a boarding house. My grandfather had a boarding house, a couple of apartments right behind their house.
Sure.
So he lived there. Well, he met my mom while he was there. And so when the electric cooperative formed, the rural electric cooperative formed, they hired him because he wanted to stay.
Yeah, cool.
And so he stayed there and married my mom, and the rest is history from there.
Wow. So where did you go to high school? Did you go to high school?
I saw in Salisaw High School.
Yeah. What was high school like for you?
Well, it was a small school.
Everybody
So
knew everybody.
again, the town's only around 8,000. So we had a small class, and so everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of a small town.
It is cool.
I miss that because really you did know everybody.
Well, you couldn't go any place without, I'm going to talk to your mom.
Well, and
that's a good.
Everybody knew my folks. They were very active in the community. So
yeah, that's cool.
Everybody knew them and knew my grandparents' family was just very, very active there. But small high school, and I drive by it when I go home all the time.
Did you play sports or do music or?
So yes,
like
when
that?
when I was junior high, I started my sports career in football.
Okay.
And so I realized very quickly this is probably not the career. I was in drama and everything. I said, I'm probably going to be able to make a living a lot better with my voice than I am with my athletic abilities.
Yeah.
So when I went to high school, I moved from the playing field to the press box.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Now, are you an Oklahoma State or Oklahoma Sooner?
Well, there's really only one true college team, and that's the Sooners.
Yeah, that's right. I love the Sooners. I've always liked them.
Oh yeah.
Now
it's going to be a rebuilding year this year. But,
yeah, no doubt.
We go through those.
We do go through those, don't we? Well, my mom and dad were married here in Sanger. And I grew up in the church. Spent my entire life in the church. I don't ever remember a time where I was apart from the Lord. It's one of those. I'm assuming you had a similar kind of.
Well, there was that period. Radio. Was the thing that took me away. I started radio when I was 16.
Is that right?
So I always wanted to be on radio. I had a little cassette recorder, and I'd do radio programs and everything. And so I was working for a clothing store as a janitor. After school, I'd go there and sweep the floors and take out the trash and those types of things. And they did a lot of radio advertising, so I got to meet some personalities there from the local radio station.
Yeah, I love it.
We had a little AM/FM combo, and
celebrities are everywhere.
Oh yes,
small town, big town, doesn't matter.
Big time. And so they do a lot. We used to do a lot of radio remotes, go out on location and do those. And so I got to meet them, and I said, man, I want to do that. So as soon as I got my driver's license, then I said, hey, can I come out to the radio station? Now, back then, it wasn't elaborate studios like we have here.
Sure.
It was a block building outside of town next to the transmitter and
where they had the
tower,
old tower
and
there.
the tower.
Yes.
So that's maybe a 3-room block building, transmitter, office, and studio.
Exactly.
So I would go out there in the early morning hours before I'd go to school. I would drive out there. The guy who did the morning show was a guy who liked to eat.
Oh,
and
cool.
And it showed.
Yeah.
And so I knew he
That's the trouble with radio. You can sit and eat a lot.
And smoke, drink coffee, and do all the things you probably shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And so I would go by and get a box of donuts. I'd be waiting for him when he would drive up to sign on. I think it was like at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
It was a daytimer. That means they signed on at daytime.
Yeah.
And signed off at
cool.
sunset. So I would be out there and say, hey, sure, come on in. So I said, hey, what does that do? Why are you doing it that way? So he'd explain it to me. And then he said, hey, you want to do this? So I got where I could run the board, do everything. He could just sit back, eat donuts, drink coffee, and smoke cigarettes, and I'd do all the work. So when the first they had a weekend shift come open, and the manager was talking to him, "Hey, we need somebody in there." And he said, "I got the guy. Well, we'll have to train him. He's already trained. He's ready to go."
Wow.
So I started when I was 16-year-old, and have been basically the only time I've not been on radio on a weekly or daily basis is while I was in Bible college.
Wow. There's a lesson for a lot of kids in that. Find a place you can volunteer, spend some time, get equipped, develop your skills. And when the openings come, you're ready to jump in.
You're way ahead of everybody else. And you find something, you got a passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I started, my initials are Larry Lowell Powell, LLP. So when I did some radio early on, it was the double LP on KTED. So,
I won't even go into all the names that I went under.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny one on that one.
Okay.
So finally I get a show. This is it was country music during the day at 6 o'clock. We'd flip over because they had an FM. It was an AM/FM combo. AM signed off at sundown, FM up to 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I went by the first name of Jim Dillinger.
Jim Dillinger?
I came home and my dad said, "Hey, did you listen to me?" "Yeah, what's this Jim Dillinger stuff?" I said, "That's my radio name." He says, "What's wrong with the name I gave you?"
Oh.
The next day I was Jim Franklin back on that.
There's a lot to be said for checking things out before we do certain things. Hey, you're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad that you're with us. We'll be right back, and we're with Jim Franklin today.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. No matter what comes, no matter what goes, if you're on a high, if you're in a low, if you're getting sick, if you're feeling well, if you're getting up, if you just fell, God's love and faithfulness will always be the same. Some things never change. This is Powell to the People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad that you're with us. I've got a special guest today, Jim Franklin, pastor at Cornerstone here in town. And we're talking a little bit about Jim's history and where he came from, Oklahoma, dad from Arkansas. And, we've got so many things in common that way.
That's why we look alike.
Yeah, that's why we look alike. But radio, I think, still is such a powerful medium because so many people can't get out. They television doesn't do it for them, but they'll listen, and that's that Roosevelt thing that happened with the fireside chats, and it became a DNA almost of Americans was radio, and so you can get your message out. And nowadays, we're on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, all of these other streaming mechanisms were available, so you can listen when you want. So you don't have to just catch us when we're on.
But here's the thing, because I'm a big proponent of radio, and especially long form radio like we have here on KXEX.
Yeah, where you can actually say something
and live. I mean,
yes.
And thank God for the technology that we have, podcasts and that, where we can be more that way.
Yeah.
But the thing that AM radio has specifically, FM too, but live radio has, long form like that, is that we can address the subjects immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not confined to sound bites as television is.
Yes.
But we can sit and we can talk about what happened this morning at City Council.
Yeah.
We can watch and what's happening right now.
Well, we got 2 television stations right up here, and something broke.
There's no one else, no other form of media that can do that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, podcasts are great. We utilize and all that, but you're always listening after the fact. So when people say, that late, I said, no. There's no other medium like this that can connect you in real time, be able to discuss the issues.
And people somehow, it's just like a teacher. We're put on a pedestal that we either earn or don't earn, but we're put on a pedestal. They give us more credit than we're due. Radio has a similar kind of thing because your voice connects with people, and there's something special about a voice and hearing it. I'll tell you one quick story. I was on a plane coming back from Washington, D.C., and Dot and I were together, and we were just talking. And somebody about 6 rows back said, "Is that the good news man?" Heard the voice, and said, "Is that the good news man?" And then he said, one of the lines that I've used in one of the stories was, "It's not wooden." It was about my brace. My leg isn't wooden. It's real. And we had talked about it. I had mentioned that. But those sound bites and those kinds of things log into long-term memory, and rhythm and, music, as your wife Cindy does. And all of that stuff is put together so that we can remember things. And radio does that.
So I was mentioning, because now they want to bring all these TV cameras into the radio studio, and I've kind of fought that now, because if they see me, they see why I'm on radio, because I have a face for it. But radio has it empowers so many more of your senses.
Yes.
It makes you, as the listener, lean into it more.
You focus
if it's a flat screen, I see the image. I don't have to work much.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I'm listening to something, I think that's the power of music also, and also with this form of radio.
Yeah.
People lean in, and then their imagination begins to go to work. And once you engage a person's imagination, you've engulfed them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now they're listening, and that's why old-time radio shows, radio dramas and stuff,
Still listen to them.
They have an element to them that TV doesn't have.
Yeah, remember War of the Worlds?
And
those kind of things. I mean, they do log into your long-term memory, and it's like a longing almost to hear the next one, the next episode, or the next talk show that you're going to do, because people get a chance, and especially in your format, they get a chance to call in and to say some things and give their opinion, and that gives you a chance to bounce off of that too.
Exactly.
Which is like sitting in a living room having a conversation.
It's a medium that people say, "Oh, that'll go away." I say, "No, it'll never go away, because it can't be replaced."
No, exactly.
And it's been proven over all these years. You talk about accent. People say, "Man, you've been out there so long, you should have lost your Okie accent." I said, "No, I practice this every day."
Every day.
And so that's what happens to me so many times. I'll walk into a place, as soon as I start saying something, say, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I listen to you."
Absolutely.
Which, is really humbling. I'm sure that people would take time out of their day, their schedule, or to schedule their activity to say, "Hey, I want to listen to Larry Powell. I want to listen to Alan Autry," which I couldn't understand why anybody did that. but or listen to a program. I'm really humbled by that, to think that people have given me that opportunity to speak into their life, hopefully to inform them, educate them, entertain them, which we try to do in all three of those.
Yeah. It's interesting. As I was growing up, Dad would always tell me the responsibility I had when people liked you or thought highly of you. You have an obligation to conduct yourself appropriately at all times. And there's I can parse it and do a little bit over here and a little bit over there. I am who I am 24/7. And I'm not going to be different than that.
And you've got to watch out, because you never know who's around. I was in Israel, getting ready. We was at Masada, getting ready to go up in the lines there for the cable cars. And you've been there. And I was talking to somebody, and somebody says, "Are you?" So you never know. We were in Mexico at a time on a cruise, off the cruise ship there, and so my family says, "We can't go anywhere with Dad, because everybody." I said, "No, I've got to act right all the time."
Yeah, my daughter and son-in-law and grandkids all say that. We go out to dinner or something and say, we can never just eat the family, just the way it is. And then, it's interesting, because I did 8 years on K-Jewel when I was county superintendent. And then I did, I'm still doing political analysis for 24 and 47. So you've got all of these venues that you can work. And I always wanted to share with people to give them an insight they might not have, and never put them down, but always give them a chance to think a little differently about something. So when we do political analysis, it's, well, maybe you hadn't thought about this. Like when Jackson was president, for example, he was as ornery, and his competition, they were as ornery as anything we've ever seen today. I mean, it's not even close in some ways.
I don't remember those days, Larry.
Yeah, I know.
You probably firsthand account there.
It's that history guy, But they were calling each other's wives all kinds of names and stuff. So it's been in politics for a long time and things like that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your college days. What was it like in Bible college for you during those days?
So again, Waxahachie, Texas. I started, like I said, I started off at
How'd you
Northeastern.
get to Texas? Because Texas and Oklahoma don't get along.
We don't get along, but that's where the Bible college
Okay.
was. So I went 2 years at Northeastern State University. Went there on a drama scholarship because they didn't have a radio scholarship. So that's the closest thing I could get to it. So
yeah.
I went that, and thus my love for the theater and performing arts and that. And that's what I did during high school.
Yeah.
Again.
So that's why you have a movie theater for a church.
No, it's a performing arts theater. That's right. It's an old vaudeville theater. So
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
full working stage. Then
I love it.
They converted it into a movie theater.
Okay.
And so from there, felt a call of God into the ministry. And so there was a group that was traveling representing the Bible College in Texas, in Waxahachie, that had come through a church service. And I just really felt, okay, let's go check that out. And so that's where I ended up.
That's cool. That's cool. So where did you meet Cindy?
There at Bible College.
She was at the same
thing.
one?
So she was living in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time. And the same group had come through. And she said, hey, we need to, because that's what their job was. They went out and represented the college. They were recruiting.
Yeah.
And so she was there. And we both, I was already in this musical drama group that was traveling. So I became a part of that group.
Yeah.
And so she tried out for it with her musical abilities. When we first met, we did not like each other. I was a little bit more radical, and in those days I
can't believe that.
I was a leftover from the Jesus Revolution. So I big cross on a chain around my neck. Holy jeans before they were fashionable. I had an afro.
Oh, I love
wore tinted glasses. I mean, I really looked like something out of the late '60s. And she was very prim and proper. She had been Miss Arkansas contestant, a runner-up, and Miss Little Rock, and society, and that. And so our worlds just didn't seem to come together.
Yeah.
And so we got in the group. We became best friends. She did the musical part. I did the drama part because I definitely can't sing. And suddenly the scales fell from her eyes one day, and she realized what a great catch I was, and pursued me. And I got tired of running, and that's my story.
Yeah, and you're sticking to it till Cindy comes in. Well, you mentioned the Jesus people. Dot and I took 200 kids back to Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark, and we took 5 rock bands, and we did the whole thing as well.
Wow.
An entire 747 was full of folks. And when Christians get together, you know what they do? They want to sing. And they had a piano bar in those days on the planes. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Yeah.
Trying to think of piano bars on the planes.
Isn't that something? And so what everybody started doing was gathering toward the music. And the pilot had to come on and say, get back to your seats. The balance is being shifted. But, we had that experience, and we know very much what it was like. I don't know if you knew Bob Clayton, but Bob Clayton was from Southern California by way of Pennsylvania, and he had gotten together with a whole bunch of folks from the Jesus movement, and it was a fantastic experience. I mean, it's a life-changing experience. One incident that we had was in a park where a lot of kids were drunk, a lot of drugs and stuff like that. The leader of a gang of the park wouldn't let us hand out brochures and pamphlets. And I said, let me tell you what, I'm going to flip a coin and decide whether we can do this or not, knowing Proverbs 16:33 said, man tosses a coin, God determines the decision. We flipped the coin, and I got ready to hand out, and we did hand out, and he allowed us to do that, and we had a chance to minister. Anyway,
I've flipped those coins a few times.
Yeah, no, because we trust the Lord on that. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. My special guest today is Pastor Jim Franklin from Cornerstone, and we're having a good time. Stick with us. Come right back. We'll be back in just a few seconds. Take care.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
Saturday and Sunday. Saturday at 4, Sunday at 6. Okay. And then it's on Spotify and all the other.
I'm just trying to think of how to promote the event Sunday.
Well, we can catch it Saturday night, but it will go on. Jeremy, this goes on Facebook right away, doesn't it? Spotify. Spotify goes on right away, so it'll be on right after we're through. As soon as he posts it, so you could do it. Yeah. I'll do it that way. Yeah. Okay, good to go.
No matter what comes, no matter what goes, if you're on a high, if you're in a low, if you're getting sick, if you're feeling well, if you're getting up, if you just fell, God's love and faithfulness will always be the same. Some things never change.
This is Powell to the People on the best talk in town.
Thank you for joining us. Coming back, Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. KXEX 1550 AM, Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. Tell your friends. We talk politics, education, religion, technology, sports, values, and healthy communities. Also, you can catch Good News with Larry Powell. Nothing but good news stories, and that's Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and it's a great time to be boosted a little bit. But Spotify, you can go to Spotify and tell your friends about Spotify because you can listen at your leisure. So welcome back, Jim. It's nice to have you with us today. And,
Always.
Yeah,
I get to come into the studios every now and then.
You and I have, for some reason, have had a positive affinity for many, many years. We just hit it off. And, AG backgrounds, both of us, that's Assemblies of God.
Yeah,
for those
that's
of you.
not a disease.
No, it's a
although
good
some
thing.
think it is, but
the Assemblies, Dot's father was the superintendent of the Kentucky district. So
see, I'm learning all kinds of stuff today.
yeah, and then G.L. Johnson was a 19-year-old evangelist that he mentored. And so he brought him to Kentucky to do all kinds of things. So we go back with G.L. Johnson as a family many, many, many years ago, and he was in their home, and when Dot was a young lady and,
What a
and
connection.
stuff. Yeah, so it's one of those things that if you are an AG, you have a place to connect anywhere in America and throughout the world. One of the biggest missionary groups in the world, phenomenal stuff. I mean, really, really cool. So it's good. And we have a number of AG churches here.
Right.
And in fact, Alan Doswald used to say that the biggest business in Fresno are the 500 locations for churches, which is really true. And one of the things you guys did during COVID that I really like, and People's Church does the same thing, but you guys have a unique way of doing this, is feeding people. So tell us a little bit about, Cornerstone, because, people know the political side of Jim Franklin, they're not in church.
Yes.
But they don't know the service side, I think. I think you've gotten less credit than the church deserves, and the amazing thing that has been done for thousands and thousands of people in Fresno through Cornerstone with food, with clothing, with just taking care of people. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I first came here 30 years ago, this was all new to me, especially a city of this size.
Sure.
And being in an urban setting.
Yeah.
Which the church
Picking
still
downtown.
was. Downtown.
Yeah.
We were, when we came 30 years ago, the Lowell Jefferson district right there was the highest crime rate, highest car theft rate was right there. We had cars every week stolen. You remember those days.
Absolutely.
When we had all that taking place.
Yeah.
So I was invited to go to Los Angeles to a feeding that was being done down there by Operation Blessing with the 700 Club.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went down there and saw people lined up for blocks to receive food. And I thought, that couldn't be in Fresno. Again, I'm new to the area. So
Sure.
I said, we want to do one of these outreaches.
Especially with all the food we have.
Exactly. Because I grew up in an agricultural rich area.
Sure.
So I said, we want to do one there. They said, well, yeah, we'll do one. So they brought a truckload in. We advertised it there at the Divisadero in Fresno. We had 5,000 people sign up.
Wow.
So show up.
Yeah.
And it so overwhelmed me. I said to the organizer there, well, this bag of groceries is going to run out.
Yeah.
These people
what
need
do they
food
do
all the
next
time.
week? Yeah.
And so to do something of this magnitude, what would we need to do that? He says, well, to do something of this magnitude, you're going to have trucking, you'll have to have a warehouse to be able to do that. So we began to pray at that point. We were operating out of a closet in the back of the church, a little food pantry,
So
like a
this
lot
was
of churches
the early
do.
90s.
This is the early 90s.
Yeah.
When we first came at Divisadero in Fresno.
Yeah.
And so when we relocated to the Wilson Theater, the first building that we purchased outside of the theater was where it's where K. Jewel is at now, located there, One Putt Broadcasting. So we used to own that building. And so when we went to buy that, looked at it, and the owner said, don't you want to see the rest of it? I said, what do you mean the rest of it? He said, well, we have a warehouse. So right across the alley was a warehouse.
Oh, wow.
So that then launched us into that magnitude.
Amazing.
And so from there, my goodness, that has been now 25 plus years. We have been feeding people on a regular basis, and now have moved from that location to we have over 30,000 square feet of warehouse
right?
space.
Wow.
Refrigeration, cold storage, refrigerated trucks that we operate out of. And now on a regular basis, we are helping. We've become kind of a middleman. So we help some 30, I think now close to 40 different agency churches that we provide the food to.
Wow.
That then do. And then, of course, we do street level
Sure.
distributions also during COVID, as you mentioned that
Yeah.
way. When the freeze came to Orange Cove, we took twice, because the freeze happened twice over a period of years. We took over 18 semi truckloads of food into that community.
Wow.
And we've shipped as far as Mexico to the during COVID, even to the East Coast. We sent a truckload of food to New York at one time. And then from that, we branched out. We have a ministry called Randy's Closet, where we provide clothing to, we work with Fresno Unified and with Clovis Unified. So when students that don't have, they'll send them to us, and we can clothe them and help get that. And then we have now, one of the recent things, the homeless, is our Showers of Hope. Where we have portable showers that we set up on a weekly basis, so we can get hot showers and clothing to the homeless to help get them connected with the services that they need.
That's really cool. I was reading some stuff, and I've known this, but you have over 50 ministries taking place. You know, branches for every member, a minister almost, where we can find a place for you to serve. If you're at Cornerstone, that's part of what I think the mission of the church is to reach out and change the city. And make it a place of hope for a lot of people who are hopeless and are really struggling. And you were at Full Gospel Tabernacle, which is Cornerstone, first started out early on, where I was. And then we moved out to the north part of town and things. But you stayed. What was it that gave you that sense that this is where we need to be?
Well, it's something I learned as a kid. My daddy always used to tell me, it's an old saying, that dance with the one who brung you.
Yeah.
So, and when we outgrew that facility, I talked to several pastors, and a lot of them said, hey, move north.
Yeah.
That's where the city's growing. Now, again, this is 27 years ago. So Peoples was up there, but there really wasn't anything else up there.
Not a lot.
You know, I mean, there was some, but, you know, we didn't have church rolling knees or any of the development. So everybody said, hey, come up here with what's happening, growth of church. And I really never had a desire to do that, because I said, no, our need is right downtown.
Right.
And so we said, no, we've got to find the property to do it here. Now that's unique, because if you're a suburban church, you go buy 20 acres and then you develop it as you need it. When you're an urban church, you play Monopoly, and you start here, and then you're buying and trading.
And you hope the buildings become available.
Exactly.
Or pray they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's still some that we're praying for, but we've been able to put together a little over 2 blocks of
it's amazing
campus that we have downtown.
And I've watched that happen, and how you've helped others come into the area as well. You know, so it's pretty unique. You don't see that very much in America anymore.
Well, there was nothing down there when we came. Literally, all the buildings were basically boarded up. Nothing there except the theater. And now, since we've come down there, and we bring thousands of people there every week. Now, Granville Homes, with all that's happened, we have a neighborhood now that has grown up around us. Instead of us going to the neighborhood came to us.
Yeah, and that's pretty unique. And then downtown Rotary, Fresno Rotary is in one of your buildings. Has been in there. So I mean, it's been a unique thing that we are a part of downtown Fresno. We're not abandoning it. We're not going to leave it. We're going to help keep it going. And boy, if you take the vision from when you started to where we are now, with all of the housing that is down there, if you want to call it gentrification or whatever is taking place, which has all been good for folks who owned property down there, that things have changed. I mean, it's a different place. I have friends who never been, I don't think, south of Shaw, definitely not south of Shields. My entire career, and Dot's entire career, was south of Shields as educators. We never had a fear of being downtown, ever.
Well, there's so much, urban legend and everything about how unsafe downtown is. Statistically, just look at the police statistics, and you'll find that downtown, basically where we are located, is the safest part of town. You're safer in my parking lot than you are at River Park.
Isn't that
statistically?
No, I agree.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I bought whistles for the grandkids, the emergency whistles and stuff, River Park, and those kind of things. So yeah, it really is an amazing thing. I love downtown Fresno. In the past, there were a lot more eateries. They're trying to get a lot of them back, but I think that hopefully some things are going to happen that do that. So people will feel free to come down and just try it, see what it's like. And you've got an event that you're working on coming up here. I want to talk about. We're just a minute away from the break. When we come back, you've been involved in Love America one way or another, and those of us who love the Lord are told to take care of those around us. And in many cases, we clearly understand loving America and loving the Lord are two separate things. They're not conjoined, but they certainly have a connection. And when I do the right thing for my fellow citizens and my community, I'm telling them about a future that they might have that's a long-term future, with the Lord. So you're doing some absolutely amazing things there. So we want to hear a little more about that. But you have quite a number of people on staff. I know you got Cindy's on staff with you. You got your son. Rudy's on staff with you. Raina, you've got a lot of people who have committed themselves to the same mission that you have. And I want to hear a little more about that as well. So if you'll take us out of this one, and we'll come right back in just a few minutes. You're listening, folks, to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. My special guest today is a good friend of mine, Pastor Jim Franklin, and we're having just a good time. Hope you are as well. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
No matter what comes, no matter what goes, if you're on a high, if you're in a low, if you're getting sick, if you're feeling well, if you're getting up, if you just fell, God's love and faithfulness will always be the same. Some things never change.
This is Powell to the People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We're so glad that you're with us. And I can't believe, Jim, how fast you've done this for many, many years. So the radio goes quick. Yeah, radio goes really fast. But you've got a special event coming up that I want to make sure people know about. And it's going to be at the fairgrounds. Give us the particulars on that and what's going on.
We're very excited. This will be our second year to be at the fairgrounds. We'll celebrate America, one nation under God.
Yep.
I believe in this country. We got problems and everything, but I'll put it up against any country on the face of God's green earth. And so we started this last year. This year we're expanding it. So it's this Sunday. It starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with a car show. I know people say, wait a minute, it's going to be hot on Sunday. Well, that's why we're going to be indoors.
I love it.
So we've got all the buildings rented there, the large buildings, expo buildings. And so it'll be indoor air-conditioned car show. We were just in a
July
meeting
2nd
earlier, and we've got a lot of classic cars. It's going to be full. We got food vendors that are going to be there, other vendors that will be there. So it's just going to be like going to the fair, and that'll start at 3 o'clock with the car show. Okay. That'll go all through the afternoon because you want to come and kind of just saunter around the cars. And we got motorcycles and bicycles also being exhibited, big prize money and that. And so that'll be going on. Then the main event is that night. We'll move to the grandstand. Now, the grandstand is shaded because of the way it's set, so it'll be shaded from the sun. And we'll fill that grandstand up. We had over 4,000 last year. Wow. That were for our first year at the fair, so we anticipate a lot more. And then we will have our Celebrate America program. We're going to kick it off at 8 o'clock. You want to get in your seats early because the first thing that happens is the Fresno State skydiving team. They're going to come sailing in with a huge American flag to kick it off, national anthem. I mean, this is just an old-fashioned 4th of July, God and country celebration. We're going to sing together, God Bless America.
Kind of like that little hometown where we do those kind of things.
That's what it's going to be like. And special music. I'll be speaking there, and that'll take us right up to the 9 o'clock hour when it gets dark enough. And then we're going to light up the sky with a huge fireworks show. And people say, well, how much does it cost to get in? It's absolutely free to get in.
Wow.
Now hang on to your seat here. The parking is free too.
You're kidding.
Free parking, free admission. Come on out and bring the entire family. Come early, enjoy the car show, indoor air conditioning. You're not going to be able to do anything else Sunday afternoon because it's going to be so hot.
Exactly.
So come indoors for that. And then when the sun starts going down, we're going to move over to the grandstands. So it's going to be a great
parking
time.
On chance, parking in the infield.
Well, there'll be parking in the Kings Canyon. Basically where the midway is at. Yes. That'll all be parking there. That'll be parking. And then chance will have parking. So we'll have plenty of parking.
Yeah, good. And
we're going to, give away some prizes that night. It'll be fun for the entire family. Everybody say, man, it's so expensive to do this kind of stuff. Yeah. Come to us. We'll foot the bill for it.
So that's not the Powell Theater. That's in the grandstand,
Correct.
The big place. And it is situated perfectly. So the sun is at your back. It's shaded because of all the way the building sits and stuff. So that's perfect location for it. I mean,
we're really excited about the partnership that we have with the Fresno Fairgrounds. They're just so great to work with.
People.
And so we'll be doing this every year as long as God lets us keep doing it, and we'll be expanding it. I mean, I've already got some plans for next year. I can't tell you, but it's really going to be. So put that on your calendars, folks. It's always going to be the Sunday night before the 4th. We won't do it on the 4th because you want to be with your family and everything on the 4th and that. So it's always the Sunday night before the 4th. This year it falls on the 2nd, this Sunday night.
Boy, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So 3 o'clock, they can get in. And then 8 o'clock you don't even have to bring your own food. In fact, food vendors are there. So you can get food, water, drinks, that kind of stuff.
I'll be riding the corn dog ride several times. So all that great fair food, kettle corn.
I love it.
All snow cones.
Will they have soft tacos?
I believe there is a soft taco booth there.
Good. That's the only reason I go to the fair is usually soft tacos, and I love to see the kids exhibits. But this is fantastic because we need something. We got October for the fair. Now we've got Celebrate America in July. So I can't think of a better thing to do with your time, folks.
And also just Cornerstone will be at the fair again this year. We do our Sunday service at the Powell Theater on the first Sunday of the fair.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. That's really good. Well, I'm one of these guys. You may be too. When I say the Pledge of Allegiance, I don't do it kind of rote. I do it with feeling every time I say it. I pledge allegiance to America, and people around me are probably going, "What's this guy doing?" I want it to be poetic. I want it to be feeling and things like that. So I love July 4th. It's my favorite time of the year. Christmas, obviously, notwithstanding and that kind of thing. But
we will do that, and that's one of the things. Quick story: when I was a kid, small town. We talk about small town, so parades are big.
Yep.
The American Legion. Dad was a member of the American Legion. He served in World War II, and the VFW and all those great organizations. So they will be the honor guard at the beginning of any parade, whether it's the rodeo parade. Yeah. I mean, little towns like to have parades. So we were there at the side of the street waiting for the parade to come. I had a friend of mine there. We were cutting up and just being kids. I was just a young kid. Dad was standing there, and the parade starts, and the honor guard comes by, and Dad snaps to attention. Well, I'm just down there cutting up with my friend, and we're laughing and giggling and everything. All of a sudden, I felt my dad in that loving way that only he could just reach down and gave me a pop on the top of the head. Well, as a son, I knew what that meant. Yeah. I'm in trouble, and I better shape up quickly. He waited till the flag passed by, and then I'll never forget this. This was a learning moment as he got down on his knees and got me face to face and said, "Son, that flag, when that flag comes by, we stand at attention."
Yeah.
And he gave me a quick lesson on what that flag represents.
I love it.
Men and women that have died for what that flag represents. And so we will always honor that flag, whether it be the Pledge of Allegiance or a national anthem, or when it comes by in a parade, you will stop and you will stand at attention. You won't talk and cut up. And that has just been something that those values are not something that are taught necessarily, but they're caught. I caught it. I was infected, and so he modeled that for me throughout his life. And I want to model that for my kids. And I think patriotism, sadly, is something that we're losing today.
Well, it's too bad, too, because California actually has a law that you're to do a patriotic exercise in every class every day, at the start of the school day. Not every class during the day, but at the start of the school day. And so many have abandoned that. And yet it's law. You're actually supposed to do it. And, whether it's the Pledge of Allegiance, sing a patriotic song, whatever it is, do something to recognize, because how do you know where your freedoms come from if you're not taught them, where they come from? And my dad was a veteran. He was on the USS Core, which was a hunter sub that went at aircraft carrier that went after German subs and things. But I love the stories that he told.
He was on an aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
My dad was on the USS Hancock, which is
right?
another aircraft carrier.
Yeah, cool. So he taught me a lot about right, wrong, and when you have a thing happening now that wrong is right, right is wrong, the Bible talks about that too. There's coming a time, we're in that time, that's happening now. And we've got to do everything we can to correct that.
I think there's a lot of veterans, sadly, especially some of Vietnam and those veterans that are now into that had negative experiences.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And sadly do not talk about them. And I can understand that. I've never served, but I challenge those and encourage those. You need to share the reasons why you serve.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to pass those values on to your children and your children's children, because if it's those values that are exemplified by a parent or a grandparent that are the ones that will so infect that child and help them to understand. Otherwise, they're going to pick up the values from some liberal teacher, musician, movie star that does not share that. And if that's all they hear, that's what they're going to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we always said in education is if we don't have something planned for the kids, they'll find something to do, and it's usually what we don't want them to do. So teach them well. De Tocqueville said that America is lost when people realize you can vote somebody in who is going to give them something for free. But when somebody is getting something for free, somebody's working to be able to do that and pay for that. I want to do just a real quick thing because it was such a neat thing. You won a court case. We've only got a minute and a half to go. You won a court case during COVID, when we were excluded from being in church. A lot of folks, that was a tough time. Give us a snippet on that.
So you and I stood before the Board of Supervisors and said, wait a minute, county, don't do this. The governor's doing it. You don't have to shut these churches down. We said church is essential. If Walmart can be open, we can be open, or you're going to have to show us why not. And of course, people say, no, you can't do that. You got to follow what the government does, and that. Well, the government is the Constitution, and the Constitution said we have a right to assemble, we have a right to gather, we have a right to worship. So we sued on those bases to say, no, we're not violating the law. It's the government that's violating the law. And the Supreme Court in 7 different cases said that's correct, that the governor is the one breaking the law, and upheld churches' freedom. We won the case. The state and the county settled with us because they saw the handwriting on the wall. And now there's a permanent injunction that the county or the state cannot stop churches from meeting.
That's an absolutely remarkable thing. And it takes somebody standing up to be able to make that happen.
That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't an outlandish request.
No.
To be able to do what the Constitution said you can do, which is freedom of assembly and freedom of religion.
Well, and that one of the Supreme Court justices said, just because there is a pandemic does not in any way halt the exercise of our because if that happens, then they could take away everything because they said it was an emergency.
Absolutely. Emergencies trump everything, and they don't. Well, listen, folks, you've been listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. My special guest today has been Pastor Jim Franklin, good friend of mine. A lot of good things going on. Be sure you catch Celebrate America Sunday, Abe. This is July the 2nd at the Fairgrounds, 3 o'clock. It's going to be a great time to celebrate America and hear Jim Franklin speak. We'll see you all next week.